In this presentation, we're going to be talking about dive planning. According to the dive planning can be simple or it can take a lot of time. But how to plan a safe dive? A good dive plan is going to be taking in consideration team limitations, air limitations, and equipment limitations. An acronym is an excellent way to remember all the important points in the dive plan. We are using SAT acronym, which was invented by Chuck Exley and is pretty much the standard in today's cave diving. SAT is the acronym for S sequence, A air, D depth, D duration, and D distance. There is many other acronyms, however, we like to stick to the standard to communicate with other divers easier. In mathematics, informally speaking, a sequence is an ordered list of objects. In sequence, you want to be talking about a dive overview. You want to be saying what are you doing, where are you going. You want to discuss the team formation. You want to make sure everybody knows what is expected for them to do. If everybody knows what their position is, the organization inside the water will be a lot easier. A chronology of the dive events is ideal so that you don't miss any important points to discuss. And also you want to bring attention to special considerations you may want to do, like for example, stopping before exiting the dive to practice your bath drills. Air is the name given to the atmosphere used for breathing and for photosynthesis. When you are discussing air during your dive planning, you want to make sure that the most important thing you talk about is the reserve gas. You want to make sure that you can come back out from the farthest point of penetration for the farthest, deepest point of your dive, sharing gas all the way back out to the surface. So the reserve gas is exactly appointed to accomplish that. Also, you want to discuss the turnaround pressure so that you know exactly when will be the right time to start turning around before going beyond that minimum reserve gas you need. You can use gas management rules when you're using the same size of bottles, and you can just use your pressure gauge and use the reading for that. But when you're using the similar size tanks, you must have to go to liters or cubic feet and actually do the calculation by volume and not by pressure gauge reading, either bar or PSI. So another important thing to do is to make sure you go through the gas sequence. So basically you're talking about the gas you're going to be using during the dive and when, and what will be the logical sequence you're going to be breathing each gas. So all the team knows exactly when we're using what bottle during the dive. Don't forget to calculate also your argon. You're not going to be breathing it, but you're also going to need it. Argon consumption rate is very important, especially in cave diving where you do multiple ascents and descents. Next, an acronym is D. The first D is for depth. How deep are we going to go? What is our planned average depth? Remember that to make an average depth, you can just look at your depth gauge every 5 minutes and sort of kind of make it estimation of how it is. However, if you dive in standard mixes, you have a larger range, so you don't have to be that accurate. However, it's important to know what is the maximum depth for the gas that you're breathing and the maximum operating depth for all the gases that you are carrying, and as well the minimum operating depth of these gases, not only in rebreather diving but also in open circuit. For example, 1070 cannot be breathing shallower than 6 meters 20 feet, where the PO2 is 0.16. The deeper you go, the more consideration you also have to be giving to the stops you're going to be doing at depth on the ascent for starting preparing your body for the decompression. Next D is actually going to be standing up for duration, and it's everything related with time. How long we're going to dive, how much deco we're going to do, how much time I want to be in the water, what time is going to take before I get cold, what time they close the dive site, do I need to get back on the boat. Duration also have to take in consideration the equipment integrity and, for example, the lights, how long is the battery running, how much burn time available I have. For example, in cave diving, I need to have at least half the light to go in and half the light to go out. Scooter run time, soft no-lime time. It's important to be careful, for example, when trusting decompression on computers, because they're not going to know if you have to travel out, for example, of a cave. So they might be telling you no decompression limit when you actually do have decompression, because you have to do the time back out. So duration is very important to be considered when we're making a solid dive plan, because we might reach limitations related to time. Duration is the measure of continuance of any object or event within time. The last D on our acronym stands for distance. In distance, it's very important that you take in consideration any arbitrary point that you want to stop the dive. Basically, you want to start heading back out. Your turnaround point does not necessarily has to be the moment that you use your gas for penetration, or you're getting in within the limitation of your reserve gas, or when you reach your maximum depth of the breathing gas you have. An arbitrary point, or the turnaround point, could be chosen anytime, and we can just decide to stop the dive if the environment changes dramatically. So for example, visibility is not as good as it was when we start, or if the current speeds up, if we have got to the point we wanted to go see, there's no reason to keep penetrating or going any deeper if we have reached the location we want to do. So in distance is an important limitation to take in consideration, because it also helps divers to accomplish objectives during the dive. Distance limitation is by far the most difficult of all to plan, because you need to be able to understand that you cannot accomplish the dives every time, and you might have to stop the penetration and abort the planned dive. Exactly for this reason, a good dive plan should always be complemented by a what-if scenario. What if is thinking in every possible situation that we can encounter performing this dive. This way we have a plan of reaction and we don't have to improvise. What if is one of the most fun parts of dive planning. Dive planning can be done in between dives while you're sitting on the surface of the water, but as the dives get more complex, you're going to be taking months for planning these dives.